Welcome to Couch Church, where we take the plastic off of the living room furniture. That's right, we're sitting on grandmama's couch so we can discuss the issues at the crossroads of Christ and culture. Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Couch Church. I'm Orlando Jermaine Bago, Senior Pastor, and this is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad within it. Listen, y'all, this is Couch Church, where you can worship anytime, any place, and anywhere. This is where we have the heart-hitting conversation. So we're going to take the plastic off of the couch. We're sitting in the living room today, and we're going to deal with those issues, those matters, and have those discussions that too often go unaddressed and lack of attention is paid to them. Joining me today for Couch Church is Lady Ebony McMorris. Good day, Lady Ebony. How you doing?
Hey, Pastor. How you doing?
I'm doing well today. It's another day in the land of the living, and so I'm grateful for another opportunity to find out my purpose and the plan that God has for me. We are also joined today by Crystal Gray.
Good morning.
Hey, Crystal, what's going on?
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Now, thank you for being here. We're just doing some new and innovative ways to connect with the masses. And we also have India Patrick, our educational resident. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Pastor.
Good
to be here.
It's good to be here on the couch. Listen, this is a new concept for Couch Church and how we find ways to bring in different perspectives that would inform our Christian theology as we begin to unpack the Bible to find out really what the text says and how we can use it to address the issues that are impacting us today. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to like today's broadcast. I want you to go and follow us on all of our social media platforms at Couch Church DMV. I am excited because this is Black History Month, y'all. This is the beginning of how we pay homage and how we celebrate the lineage and the legacy of those who paved the way before us. How we begin to respect and honor those who we call our trailblazers, our ancestors, who've gone to try the realities of another world, but who are still present in this day and age. I believe that every day is Black history. I believe that we can find in every single thing that we use things that promote, things that uplift our community as well as our culture. Some of y'all used the iron this morning. That was invented by a Black man. Some of you used traffic lights this morning. That was invented inside of our community. Some of you turned the lights on this morning. I know you thought it was Thomas Edison, but no, that was invented by Blacks as well. And so every day is Black history. And so as we kick off this Black History celebration, we wanted to deal with a book that some of us are very familiar with. Is entitled Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? Written by the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It started off as his sermon, and then he decided to go on a sabbatical with his family to Jamaica. And there he took his sermon and he began to flush it out in a little bit more detail to ask and pose this question to us and even try to give some answers and some solutions. So before we get into our panel discussion this morning with Lady Ebony and Crystal and India, I just want to help us set the framework to understand the tone of this discussion. We know that Dr. King was one of the greatest civil rights leaders in the civil rights movement. We all know his famous I Have a Dream speech and how it spoke with power and influence. But he also had a sermon entitled, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. And in this sermon that was turned into a book, he outlines the problems that are facing America and proposes a vision for a beloved community where all people are provided with the basic needs and united under the spirit of respect and understanding. In this book, Dr. King also lays out some biblical references of how we are to relate to the fight for racial justice. Guiding us today, the scripture that is found in James chapter 2, verse 17. It simply says, what good is it, my brothers and my sisters, if someone claims to have faith and no deeds? You see, when I read James, I come to the place of understanding, of realizing that it's not just enough to have hope without work. It's not enough to have faith without deeds. Scripture goes on to tell us, what good is it to look at your brother and your sister who is without clothes or food daily and offer them nothing? So how can we call ourselves Christians? How can we call ourselves the followers of God's kingdom, and yet we see so much injustice in our land, in our community, and we do absolutely nothing about it? Dr. King envisions that this can be achieved by nonviolent action, economic restructuring, and a commitment to both human rights and social justice. He emphasizes the importance of reconciliation through radical transformation. And so what Dr. King does is he outlines the problems that are facing the nation. And I believe that before we can come to any plausible solution, that we must first wrestle with the issues that are plaguing us as a people. And once we wrestle with those issues and come up with viable solutions, then we can envision what it means to be in this beloved community. So where do we go from here? Do we remain in chaos? Or do we find a way to explore what it means to operate in community? Dr. King provides this compelling vision of justice and an equitable society. A society where we can achieve radical transformation rooted in the principles of justice. And so this will be what we discussed today. How do we envision a community? But first and foremost, how do we call out the injustice that is happening each and every day? So now I want to join into this conversation. Those who are on the couch with me today, I think we just need to get right into it. How do we build? How do we build this sense of community within our local neighborhoods? How do we begin to deal with the ethos, that which grounds us as a people?
I'll just start off just talking about reform, right? So when you say we must envision, those who are in power also have to have that vision as well. Because a lot of the injustices that we have seen, number one, it's steeped in our policy, it's steeped in these institutions that we have, from the criminal justice system to our education system. We're combating things like redlining. We are still reaping what happened after slavery and Reconstruction, right? We are still reeling from how many of our neighborhoods were torn up because of redlining, and then the preying upon of our people. So I think many communities, we have a vision for what needs to happen. We also need people in place that want to take that vision and not rob from the people, but love the people. You don't love me if I'm in Flint, Michigan, and I'm still dealing with, I can't drink the water. You don't love me if, like, we're seeing violence in the street and be seeing black men and youth gunned down by police, if you're not checking your police units, but you have death squads in our communities. And so I think that first also comes with voting rights, right? We're still struggling over voting rights. And so there has to be a vision from the people that's accepted also by those who are leading the communities. And then the onus is on us to also vote those people, the right people in office.
I want to go back to something that you said, Lady Ebony, when you talked about redlining. So there is redlining and there's also reverse redlining. One deals with keeping resources out, and the other deals with keeping a set of people within. To somehow treat them like cattle, right? Where we herd them into certain segments and then put these restrictions or these barriers around them. So there is nothing that can flow in, but there's also nothing that can come out, right? And so, you know, we all from DC.
The wards.
Right? And we know that if you lived in Northwest, chances are 9 times out of 10 you never went to Northeast. Or if you lived in Southeast, you never went to Northwest. Unless by chance some family member moved up there and you went to visit. There are people who live east of the river in Washington, D.C. who have never crossed the bridge.
And those who are not from DC who may be watching that, when we talk about how small really DC is, you literally are just a couple of miles from another quadrant, like it is that close.
So when I think of community and where do we go from here, I think about showing up in your community, not being quiet, being able to get out and just demonstrate what you know and share your knowledge, and also hold meetings within your community. I'm new to a ward within Washington, D.C., where I didn't see too many brown people in our ward. But I immediately immerse myself within the community, joining organizations within the PTA, and now I have a rapport not only with the principal, not only with the community advisor, the ANC, now I have a rapport with the council member, where I just sat on a chair at the Wilson building, was able to lead a meeting addressing our concerns of school-based mental health, just getting the basics within our education system, having mental health providers, just being able to have after-school programs that are free within our community. Just imagine, we're coming from a ward, we come from Ward 8, where things are free, but you're afraid to go out to utilize them and to access them. And now I'm in a ward where I can step out and utilize them and access them, and they're no longer free. So building a community is about equitable, being able to afford it and giving an opportunity to everyone, not just a certain.
And I bet when you first started attending those meetings, everybody wanted to meet you.
Everyone.
Not right, but they wanted to meet you not to see what you were bringing.
No.
But they wanted to know what you were going to take away from them. Right? Because again, what they are trying to balance is whether or not you are in a mind frame of assimilation.
Of their vision, right?
Yes.
You're talking about what is the vision?
Yes.
They got the vision.
Right.
Are you gonna come
They want to know, are you going to contribute or whether or not you're going to take away? And I don't necessarily think that it is either or, right? I think wherever we live, that we must participate in this civil engagement, right? To be able to understand the resources that are in community, that which uplifts us, that's what builds us, that what protects us. And you mentioned something. There was a time when some of these resources were free.
Exactly.
right? And now there's a fee associated with them, and then you can get a scholarship, right? Well, why do I have to get a scholarship, right? Why do I have to be placed into this box that somehow I am underprivileged or don't meet some standard, and then you got to give me a handout in order for me to receive the benefit of living in this community.
Yeah. I used to, when I was growing up, we used to say, we just over broke, or we just over the line. And it would be so funny because it'd be like, we would have to wait till the summertime. It's still, even sometimes today, gotta wait till my pay is within a certain bracket for me to be eligible for certain resources within my own community to help my child. And it shouldn't be that way. If I'm saying to you, hey, I need assistance with this, I'm a member of this community, I should be able to have some type of subsidy or something where I can get my needs met. Not me now having to go apply for a second job, taking time away from my home to now support what I might need for my children as well as myself.
And we know that that's different depending upon where you live. You know, where you live in a state, or where you live in a city, or even where you live in the nation. We talk about, even in this Democrat versus Republican, battling around the budget, and the budget is too big and we need to make cuts. And so the Republicans say, we need to cut social entitlements. But those entitlements, how they try to frame them, are the entitlements that come to cities and urban environments. But we leave out of the framework that some of those entitlements are like Social Security, that really helps seniors. They're not black entitlements. They're not urban entitlements. They are senior entitlement. Those individuals who have worked, their whole lives, and now want to live, with some decency
and dignity to
yeah.
life, because they want to cut those programs
for
for working class. But what about when it comes to the cuts that they give to big businesses, right? And so we use different sets of terminology when we talk about the working class versus those who are of the 1%, right? And so you don't want to take away from them, but yet you want to deprive. You don't mind depriving because someone's always making money off somebody else's pain.
What they try to say is, giving cuts to the wealthy really doesn't spark economy or build the offices of the federal government. That if you cut them, then they'll cut the neighborhood, and then it is never
so
you're in this cycle,
that trickle down economy.
Right. You remain in this cycle of the haves
and
the have-nots. So how do we begin to reimagine our own community, our own sense of creating innovative solutions for us and by us? I think the pandemic has sparked individuals in this, what's the terminology, the Great Resignation, right? Where individuals are saying, I am not returning to work. This is an opportunity to live out my vision, my purpose, and my passion.
Yeah.
And so whether you are a soap maker, whether you are a t-shirt maker, whether you are an Amway seller, whether you selling oils on the corner, I think we have to come to the place of trying to find solutions from within. So here's a question I want to ask independently of each of you. What is the innovative solution that you are exploring for your own vision and purpose?
Well, I know for myself, one of the innovative ways the pandemic has shown a light on is me loving God. Me putting my prayer life, me putting my Bible, my faith first. And not saying I didn't know God, I didn't love God, but I depended on Him more. So one of my innovative ways is becoming a minister in training to be able to use my voice and the knowledge that I'm learning back from training, from scriptures, from church, to go back to my community, my loved ones, my circle, and just listen. It's about faith. It's about putting in God's hands and having an understanding that let's start from there, that you can overcome anything within your community, anything that you're experiencing, anything that's happening around you, injustices, whatever you want. The innovative way that I found, my first and foremost, was to give it back to God.
You know, I'm smiling, I'm chuckling. I didn't think that was gonna be your response.
He's so proud. He's like,
I'm like, oh, where's she going with that? But wow. I mean.
And the fact that had to be innovative, we moved away from that, but that's so true, because even when we do Tuesday prayer with women on the phone, and we're teaching about why we should pray and why God has to be our foundation, is because when I get up off my knees from praying, I'm asking God for wisdom. God, you know the issues and situations, and what I'm saying is, God, how can you use me in my community to be a resource like Joseph in scripture to help feed the people, give knowledge to the people. And the first thing he usually tells you is how to get your house in order and then reach the community. So even for my house, for our house, well, I was praying one day because I was tired of looking at statistics dealing with the wealth gap. We've been talking about the wealth gap. Okay, we have another generation in our house. Now, this is right after I prayed. Lord, I need this child to be able to understand entrepreneurship and how money works. I'm reading your scripture about how I don't have to lack. Now, let's then put in what natural ways can I put in. So I'm looking at apps, right, on banking for kids and putting that. How can I begin to think differently, because many of our parents and grandparents didn't have the space or the time to be able to do that. They had multiple kids, multiple jobs, and was trying to just survive in the struggle.
Yeah, so the innovation is in generational achievement, right? So we have to sacrifice a little bit more, be a little bit more attentive of how we take the knowledge and the skill sets that we have, and pour it into
our children,
or relearn education or educational tips.
Do not get into relearning education. I got so confused about that new math.
Oh my God!
I had to go. I had to go get our baby a math tutor.
Monty does too. She has a tutor.
I don't know nothing about that. I don't know about breaking down here and here and here and coming back together. I just know how to multiply single digits and double digits and line stuff up. You know, you like the lines on there. You can't do that.
It's a box. You working around a box. I had to ask Alexa for help, and our baby said, "Stop asking Alexa." I said, "I don't know the answer to this." But even in other issues like civics and education, we have to, and I know, India, you and I were talking before about understanding what is being taught in these textbooks, right?
Exactly. And it's so crucial that we do understand or take a chance to look at those textbooks. Is this really beneficial for my child? Yes, my child has to meet this standard within the educational system, but how are we going to make sure that this applies to their everyday life? And I think that's what the critical components, that children don't really get a chance to apply the educational component to their life outside of the classroom, and making those connections between school, home, community, and how to be productive with even their little lives. As simple as, I can help the neighbor next door with carrying a bag and know that it took 20 steps to get from her house to my house. Just little things that you can throw those foundational skills within. And even going to the corner store, how much change should I be getting back? Learning how to do quick math.
Right.
I should get a certain portion of this money back. And they don't get those opportunities because we're scared to allow them to go across the street.
Well, there's
Right.
They used to be
Right.
able to
I
go
don't
to
even
the
think they've been to the
store
corner store.
and apply that math we just learned
No.
early today
Right.
in school
Yeah.
at the corner store.
Right.
How many opportunities do our kids actually have to take that knowledge from school and apply it to their everyday life?
I want to push it a little bit that maybe we need to re-envision education.
Absolutely.
That whether they're in public school or private school or charter school, that is the alternative education.
Exactly.
The first educators are in the home,
Yes.
At home.
right? And we have turned over our power to an institution to educate our children. And we have become a void of responsibility of teaching and training our kids. I mean, that's what the scripture says.
Right.
Train up a child in a way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. It does not say find a school to train your kids.
Exactly.
It doesn't say get mad at the teacher because your kid got a C.
Right.
Right? Or bad marks. No, the first institution to educate our children is the house.
Yeah.
It's the parents. It's the environment that they spend most of the time. And this is how jacked up the system is. You gotta work 8 hours a day, but you gotta spend 2 hours to get to work and 2 hours to get home from work. So now your kid got to stay at school from 6 in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening. You don't really know your kid. Because when you get home from picking them up
tired
at 6
already, like,
o'clock,
go sit
you
somewhere.
tired, you got to
They
cook,
gotta eat.
Don't
don't
forget-
come home, not doing
By
your
that time, it's
homework.
time to get ready for bed.
Don't forget one of the main things that we have: single parents.
Exactly.
Right.
Single parents who don't have that extra time at all
Exactly.
to invest back, because I don't have the partner that's in the kitchen cooking while I'm doing homework. I don't have the extra hand that's ironing the clothes while I'm putting the baby in the shower. So what I realize is that the system is broken for us, right? And you have to learn how to navigate and use what you have. That's when you come back to your community.
Yeah.
That's when
It's
you
a community.
you come
It
back.
has to be a village.
Listen, I had to work with the teachers, I had to work with the tutor, and I had to work with Marnie. India would tell you I had to work with India. It was a group effort in order to try to get my child back on track because she was so far behind after the pandemic in school. So these are just some real
Real life.
happening with us parents. So again, I just thank my community and thank the team that I have built and I have become part of, because I knew I couldn't do it by myself.
So
That's
ultimately,
reimagining, right?
reimagining.
Reimagining has to have a community component.
ultimately, I think what we're discussing in reimagining this community is how do we build collaboration around trust, right? Trust of our community leaders, trust of our religious leaders, trust in our organizations, trust in the individuals in order to sustain a future for our people. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I think this has been a very enriching and empowering conversation based upon the book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community by Dr. King. I want you all to go and purchase the book so you can follow us as we engage in this conversation. Join us next week as we continue in this discussion. Next week, we're going to deal with economics, right? The economy, the availability of resources for our people. So here's what you want to do. If you want to continue to engage with us, you can make sure you go and follow us on all social media platforms at Couch Church DMV, or go to our website at couchchurchdmv.org. Or if you want to be a financial supporter to this cause, text the word give to the number that's shown up on your screen, 202-900-0780. Again, we say thank you to all of those who are watching us and to all of you all who are on the couch with us today. I told you, y'all, we are taking the plastic off of your grandmama's couch because we're going to deal with these issues that people just don't want to address. Until next time, may God bless you, may the Lord keep you, and may heaven continue to smile upon you.